Funding for this program is provided by Bruce Foods Corporation, makers of the complete line of Cajun King seafood seasoning mixes and other distinctive Louisiana-style food products.
Louisiana. Hello, I'm Chef John Folse, welcoming you to this great state of ours. We're real proud of our people, places, and food, and I'd like for you to know a little bit more about it. So join me and some of my friends as we visit the historical food towns of this state and cook up another great Taste of Louisiana. Hello, everybody, and welcome to A Taste of Louisiana. I'm Chef John Folse, and I am so excited about today's show because we're going to my own hometown of Donaldsonville as we search out the historical food towns of Louisiana. Donaldsonville is in Ascension Parish, and it's one of the oldest towns in all of South Louisiana. All around Donaldsonville is the great swamplands of South Louisiana where the Acadians settled in the very early days. This little shot right here is on Lake des Allemands, the Lake of the Germans. And this seaplane is bringing in a group of Germans who are visiting South Louisiana and coming in for what else but one of these great, beautiful swamp tours. As I said, Donaldsonville is located in South Louisiana in Ascension Parish, and we are surrounded by the great swamps. And all of these beautiful singings right here are singings of the little bayous that run right through the center of those swamps. This little area here, you can see the duckweed that's growing right in the middle of these little ponds, and that's what brings all of the mallard ducks and snowy egrets to our part of the country. There's my little buddy, that little 2-foot-long alligator. Here we are in Donaldsonville, as I say, one of the oldest towns in South Louisiana. B. Lemon Brothers was built in 1836. It's one of the oldest department stores. Here is Security Industrial Insurance Company, one of the largest single-owner insurance companies in America. The Church of the Ascension, built by Charles and the Bishop of Toledo, Spain, back in 1722. And the First and Last Chance, you know where it gets its name from. You can actually either have the first or last chance to get a bite to eat before jumping on one of those early passenger trains that came through the city of Donaldsonville and actually made the town a thriving metropolis. Here we're sitting in the First and Last Chance with Billy Guillotte right there to the left, and Gaston Hirsch, one of my really good buddies. Gaston came from France in the late 1940s, and he's joining me in a little plate of French fried catfish, one of the dishes that's served in that restaurant every day of the week with some spaghetti and meatballs. Gaston is caretaker, one of the oldest Jewish cemeteries anywhere in the South, and this is right in the town of Donaldsonville. The Bell House, a shot from over the levee, was built in 1881, fine vieux carré architecture. This is my own home, and look under the table, that's my little dog, Filet Mignon, my little French poodle, and my wife, Lolly. We're kind of walking around the dining room there, getting ready for a dinner. This is the old bittersweet plantation house that was restored back in the late 1970s. In the kitchen, I've got a big old black iron pot of gumbo, and I'm going to season it up with a little parsley and green onions, as we always finish gumbo, and a little touch of diced carrots for color. This is a chicken and andouille gumbo, one of the really, really good gumbos that I like to serve whenever we have guests coming over to the house. This house, as I say, was restored in the late 1970s, but it was one of the first homes built and salvaged after the burning of Donaldsonville during the Civil War. And I'm going to talk to Butch Ruggiero, who's going to be my guest today. Butch is from the Italian community of Donaldsonville. He's a restaurateur, and he knows a lot about the history of not only this house, but of the town itself. And Butch will be out in the kitchen just a little bit later to share some of the great stories of the town of Donaldsonville and living there as a young boy, and as I said, a great Italian community. The Sunshine Bridge, and this is my restaurant, Lafitte's Landing Restaurant, right at the foot of that bridge, right between Baton Rouge and New Orleans, right in the little community of Donaldsonville in Ascension Parish. You have to come there. It's a very historical town, and in fact, it was the capital of our state from 1830 to 1831, and I'm sure Butch is going to tell us why it only lasted 1 year. Also, Dr. Francois Prévost performed the second cesarean section in the United States in that town. In the little house, the little doctor's office that section was performed in is still standing right there in the center of town. And many, many more followed right in that. So there's a lot of history in the city. Obviously, one of the great, great Civil War cities of the South also, and Butch will tell us about that. But I mentioned that it's an Italian community, one of the largest Italian communities outside of New Orleans. So naturally, the foods that we cook a lot of in Donaldsonville is, of course, of Italian heritage. And the dish that I want to do for you today, first of all, is a dish that was given to me by a really good friend of mine, Angela Falgu, Angela Morris. She comes from one of those Italian families herself, and I'm sure she got this dish from her mother, Camilla, but this is braciolone. And we always begin braciolone with a nice big round steak. I want you to take a look at this platter here. Some people use flank steak today, but the early Italians will always tell you to use a really nice round steak. And what we do, we always begin by seasoning the round steak with a little bit salt, a little bit cracked pepper. Of course, you can put some dried basil right in the center of it like that, and rub just a little bit garlic down into it. And I would let these seasonings kind of marinate on the round steak while I make the stuffing for the braciolone. And I'm going to do that right here in my black iron skillet. I'm going to get that heat going really nice, and I'm going to put a little bit olive oil down into that little black saute pan, because we're going to make a stuffing that is typical of not only Italian cooking, but typical of Cajun and Creole cooking as well. We're going to begin with a little bit onions, a little diced onions, get that heat way up there. And this is actually going to go right into the center of the braciolone before it's cooked. I'm going to put a little bit celery and bell pepper, green, red, and yellow. I like a lot of the colored bell peppers, and a lot of the colors of the bell peppers that we use here on the show actually are given to us by the Italian communities in and around the city of Donaldsonville. We see all those pretty colored peppers in most Italian cooking. I'll stir that around for just a second to wilt the vegetables nicely. And then, of course, a lot of good garlic. I have to put garlic. I like garlic anyway, so you can imagine how much I like it when I do Italian cooking. A little bit of this. Now we'll stir that around, and again, we're just looking to wilt the vegetables lightly. We don't want to cook them too much, because this is going to cook inside of the braciolone in a nice tomato sauce or a nice brown sauce, whichever you would like. Once it's wilted, then we would add my next ingredient, which is chopped eggs. We've taken the eggs and we've diced them really, really nice. We got the whites and the yellows all chopped together here, and I'm going to add them to the saute pan. Of course, eggs were used quite a bit also, not only in Italian cooking, but in Cajun and Creole, because a good source of protein and a good filler. And then finally, the Italian breadcrumbs, seasoned Italian breadcrumbs to pick up all of the nice olive oil, but this becomes the stuffing, the bread stuffing for the braciolone. So I'll stir that around and then season it with all of the great flavors that I would like to make sure I put into an Italian dish. I'll cut this heat off right now, and then I'll add a little bit fresh basil to it. I put some dried basil right onto the braciolone, but right onto the round steak, but I'll put a little bit basil in there. Another little touch of cracked pepper, a little bit hot sauce. We want to spice it up just a touch. And then this is going to go into the center of the braciolone. Now take a look at this. That's going to go right down inside there. Imagine those great flavors with the breadcrumbs, with that good Italian flavor, and of course the garlic. You want to spread that around nicely. You can almost taste that flavor already. Push that all around like that. I'll move this out of the way. Now I'll take the round steak and I'll turn it into a little jelly roll like this, if you can take a good look at that. And once that's done, then I'm going to tie it with the string I have here. No, don't be too concerned about it falling apart, because you get that real nice and tight. Don't worry about it falling apart on you. Let me get this, because you're going to cook it and bake it, and once it bakes, it'll all hold together. You don't have to worry about that. You need a friend to kind of help you hold this thing together. Put this, get all these strings lined up. And again, the stuffing will stay inside because of the tying. And into this skillet, I want to fire up another little black iron pot here. And I'm going to put another touch of olive oil right down into the bottom of that roasting pan. And you can either bake the braciolone in the oven, or if you would like, you could actually saute it as I'm going to do right here. Now, I'm going to put a little flour on top of it because I want to coat it so that we sear in all those good juices. And then again, I can put a little seasoning on the outside of it, a little salt, a little pepper on the outside, just like that. And once my oil is good and hot, I would put the braciolone right down into the inside of the saute pan, and I would allow this to get nice and golden brown. Let me move this out of the way. And once it starts to saute, what I'll do is to put all around the base of the braciolone, the stuffed braciolone, the onion, celery, and bell pepper. I would let this saute until it gets golden brown. Let's pretend that it is. A little bit of that. A little bit celery. Again, all those same great flavors we put on the inside of the braciolone. A little red bell pepper. A little touch of garlic naturally. Have to have that. And then I would, again, let all of these vegetables wilt for just a second, turn the braciolone over once or twice, and then I would put in some nice tomato sauce. I could put fresh tomatoes, tomato sauce, tomato puree, whatever tomatoes you want to do. A little of your own flavorings like basil and thyme. And I have one of these already done for you, so I want to show you exactly what it looks like. Let me move this out of the way. Okay, and cut this old heat off here. And let me show you what this braciolone looks like once it's done. Take a look at that wonderful, wonderful platter. First of all, it's on a beautiful platter already, that wonderful blue vista here. And then I've got the stuffing with the eggs all showing nicely. You can pick that up. I've sliced it and served it on a really nice platter of that great rich tomato sauce. So that's the braciolone, and you might want to try it using your own stuffings, whatever stuffings you would like down into the inside. You don't have to use the Italian braciolone stuffing. Put ground meat, put Italian sausage, whatever you would like. It's going to be a great, great dish. Okay, the next thing I want to do for you, let me get this heat kicked up here. The next thing I want to do for you is another great dish from the little town of Donaldsonville, and it is an oregano chicken. And I talked about Italian sausage just now. That's what I'm going to flavor this dish with. So I want you to take a look at my platter here. On the platter, I've got some nice boneless breast of chicken, and the chicken has the skin already, left on, and that's important because in the Italian chicken, you want to have that nice crispy skin. We have Italian sausage, and the sausage is seasoned with all of those great herbs of Italian cooking, and garlic, of course, capers, and artichoke hearts, another really, really special ingredient in Italian cooking. And here, some fresh oregano, which is going to give it the flavor that I'm looking for in this particular dish. I'm going to again put a little bit olive oil down into the bottom of my black iron skillet and get that nice and hot while I season the chicken. Again, a little pepper, a little salt, and you can use all the dried herbs if you'd like, even though I've got a lot of good herbs going into the dish. Now I'm going to dust it in a little flour right here. Just dust it, and of course, shake off all of that excess. I don't want to have a lot of flour coating on the outside of my chicken, so get all that excess flour off of there. You don't want to cake a flour. You just want to dust it to seal in all that nice moisture. Okay, I'm going to put it skin side down into the black iron skillet because I want to sear that skin really nice and get it good and brown. So I'll put that down in there like that. And here's second piece and a third piece. And it starts to sizzle right away. And what happens is that it really takes the skin and seals it nice and tight. And that's where that nice brown color is going to come from in the finished dish. Once that starts to saute, then I'll add my Italian sausage. And again, I'm using Italian sausage, but if you live in a community where you have your own special sausage, like bratwurst or anything like that, use it in the dish. It'll make a really interesting variance to the dish. I'll put a couple pieces of Italian sausage down in there. Some of this nice big cloves of garlic. You can imagine that. And of course, some little capers. The artichoke hearts right down onto the inside of that dish. Put a lot of them down in there. And you can see immediately all of the wonderful Italian flavor that's going to start to develop in this dish. I want to turn this quickly. You see how nice and lightly brown that is. We're sealing it off, just like that. And then I have to put a touch of my nice oregano down into it. That's where all of my flavor is going to come from. The oregano flavor. Ooh, boy, that's hot. And then some more celery, bell pepper. And I have to put a little hot sauce in there also. And then I'm going to finish it with just a little touch of cream. I've got some cream in the pitcher, so I'm going to add cream to the dish just like that. And that cream will really make a wonderful cream sauce down into the bottom of the dish. And then you can come back and flavor the top of the sauce, a little bit pepper, a touch of salt, and allow this to cook until all of the meat comes to a really nice nice brown in the skillet. The cream will really get nice and thick, and you want to serve it on top of a little pasta. I have some of that already done here, and I want to show you what it looks like. We put this right onto the board right there, and I've got a little plate of pasta, and I can put a little piece of chicken onto the dish like this, and put some of that sausage on top of the pasta, and then, of course, pour the sauce on, or make sure you get some of those nice artichoke hearts onto it like that, and then color it up. Put a little bit of the red, a little bit of the purple, and you've got a really, really nice dish, the oregano chicken with the Italian sausage. Really good. Now, I want to show you one other thing that I would definitely serve with this dish, and that is my peppers. I've got some really nice peppers here, and you can see that the peppers are red and golden peppers, and these peppers have been roasted over an open fire, the skin removed, and then I'm going to add a little bit olive oil right down on top of the peppers. Look how pretty this is. And tear a little fresh basil on top of it. What a really nice dish. This is a wonderful vegetable accompaniment to any of those great Italian dishes. Okay, that's what I want to show you. 2 dishes I wanted to make for you. Now, hey, I told you I had a good buddy of mine, a fellow restaurateur from Donaldsonville, who was going to come. Hey, there he is, Butch,
John,
just talking about you. Butch Ruggiero, how you doing?
It's fine.
Great to see you. Hey, what do you have here?
Oh, I know you like to have antiques and all. I thought I'd bring you my seltzer bottle to show it to you.
Boy, is this a beautiful old bottle. Now, this must be turn of the century, huh?
Oh, I'm sure it is. It must weigh about 5 pounds.
It does. It's got a lot of, what, copper or steel or something?
Copper, welded, wire.
And it's a glass bottle?
All glass. Even the tube is a glass on the inside.
Is this something y'all had in the restaurant business in Donaldsonville?
Yes. We used that for years, before pop bottles came out.
Well, I'll tell you, I think the first time I ever ate in a restaurant, it was in your restaurant, so probably, hey, I'm not saying I got to drink out of this sauce. So hey, you're giving me this, right? This is to add to my antique.
Oh, no, my wife would kill me. I just brought it to show you.
Well, hey, that's okay. Well, this is fantastic. I appreciate that so much.
I did bring something to give you, though.
Okay.
This is a label off our S&R turtle soup labels that my daddy-in-law used to can turtle soup. I remember going in your restaurant around Christmas time and eating turtle soup that you make, and I enjoyed it very much. But
I was hoping you'd say that,
well,
you know.
It's still not the old S&R turtle soup.
Well, you know, y'all restaurant has been famous for turtle soup for a long time, but y'all used to can it. I had no idea.
We had a canning factory.
Right at the restaurant.
And during World War II, a lot of GIs got S&R turtle soup in their little gift package.
Is that right?
Oh, yes.
Oh, so are you going to start making this again?
Oh, no. I'm waiting for everybody that ever ate my daddy's turtle soup to pass on. So when I make it, I don't have anybody to tell me, hey, it's good, but it's not like your daddy used to make.
You don't want to hear that. You don't want to take that abuse.
No, I can't stand that.
Hey, well, I appreciate it. I collect labels, too, so I'm going to make sure I frame this and put it in my kitchen there in Donaldsonville. Look, I tell you, I really appreciate you coming to visit with us, as you do quite often, but y'all had such a famous restaurant. You still have a very, very famous restaurant in the city of Donaldsonville. Your family's been in the business for a long time, huh?
Right. My dad and his uncle bought the whole First and Last Chance back in 1921 when it was in the middle of the block from where it is now. In 1932, it blew up. the old gasoline stove mixed with the electricity got some kind of way and blew the whole place up. And they rebuilt on the site where the First and Last Chance is now. And my uncle and my father kept the business until my uncle died in '56. And then my daddy sold it in 1985 when I went in business myself in my own little restaurant.
And now you have Ruggiero's restaurant right on Railroad Avenue, right in the center of town.
Right.
I've enjoyed many a great meal there, and I hope to enjoy many more. I've been cooking Italian because Donaldsonville has been known as such an Italian community for a long time. It's a thriving Italian community.
Right.
What brought the Italians from New Orleans 45, 50 miles upriver to Donaldsonville?
Opportunity. Italian people were always hard workers. They came up, they worked in the cane fields, they saved their money, they opened little businesses, little grocery stores, little bars, little restaurants, and they just prospered in Donaldsonville. It was just an opportunity. Donaldsonville at one time was a very great town.
Right. And so they came in to work on the farms and then eventually started their own businesses. Well, I tell you, whenever I think of Donaldsonville, I obviously think of Italian and good Italian food and obviously Italian restaurants. One of the dishes that's so famous in Italian restaurants is pesto. And pesto can be any ground basil leaves or any kind of herb ground with olive oil and pine nuts. And you can do a lot of things with pesto. And I want to share with our friends out here how to make a good Italian pesto. And I want you to help me as we continue to talk about Donaldsonville. I have a little grinder here, and inside of the grinder, I put, look at all these different basil leaves. I have ruffle basil. I can put some of those nice ruffle leaves down in here. I've got some opal basil, the nice purple basil can go down into that. Give me a little bit olive oil over there, and we can put just a little bit in here. And it's got a big spout there, so we want to get it down in. Just pour it on down in there. You can put a fair amount, a little bit more than that.
That's good.
No, a little bit more. Put about, there you go, about like that. And then I'm going to put some nuts into it, like this. And what we're going to do is to chop it up by putting in this little, I know this is the way the early Italians did it too, right? Just had a little chopper like this.
A little pommy.
A little chopper, and I'm going to put it right down in there like this and chop it around. And all of the basil leaves chop nicely in the nuts and the olive oil, and it makes a really nice sauce. Now, I have some already done just to show you how we've done it. And this is what it looks like, and you have to tell me if this is a good Italian pesto. Take a look at that.
Wonderful mix to me.
Is that what it looks like? And we'll put it on top of all kind of different pies. I've got a little pie right there.
Sure.
Which one other thing I want to ask you is that in Donaldsonville, it's always been noted that we've been a big political town. It's been a center of political activity from the early 1800s. It was the first one of the first capitals of the state. Why is Donaldsonville so political?
Well, Donaldsonville is the parish seat of Ascension Parish. And Donaldsonville always had good leaders, and the people in Donaldsonville more or less stick together. The Italian community stuck together, the farmers stuck together. And if a politician came through Donaldsonville, he stopped by and he met with these groups. He was more or less assured of pretty much of a block vote.
So he knew if he went to the plantations, he could get all of that vote that time. Well, I know, I can remember even growing up that there was always some big political rally there, always something going on. Bayou Lafitte, obviously the longest main street in America, begins in Donaldsonville. The water flows from the Mississippi River to the Gulf of Mexico. Did it have any major influence on the city?
Oh, absolutely. Bayou Lafitte was a main trading area. When Bayou Lafitte was opened back in the old days, it was a shortcut from the Mississippi River to the Gulf of Mexico, and even shorter than New Orleans. New Orleans played a major part in having Bayou Lafitte closed down to keep people trading toward New Orleans.
Because they would go down Bayou Lafitte rather than go to the mouth of the river. That's very, very interesting. I've got the pizza bread right here on my counter, and I'm going to take some of that great pesto, if you hold my little pesto masher here, and I'm going to put the pesto right down on top of the bread like this. What about the Civil War? The Civil War itself obviously played Donaldsonville played a big part in it while I spread this around. There was a major fort there also, right?
Fort Butler. Fort Butler was right in a little part of town we call Port Barrow.
Right.
And it was built by the Union soldiers, and the commander was a general by the name of General Butler. And I understand he was very much of a pretty mean fella.
A notorious guy.
Notorious individual, right. Tell me that's putting it mildly. Right, and at one time, with the people living in Donaldsonville having enough of the Union soldiers and all, they would fire on Fort Butler and irritate the soldiers until, at one point, General Butler had the town razed, and a lot of the buildings were burned and torn down. Only a very few survived.
Well, I know that my house, we saw some pictures of the renovation of my house sitting right in Donaldsonville. That was one of the command posts of the Union Army during the war, and though many buildings in the town were burned, my house was spared, as well as the Bell House and a couple other of the buildings. Also, Donaldsonville, now this may not be true, you can probably tell me yes or no. Somebody said there was a large prisoner of war camp during World War II in that town.
Right at the end of World War II, the government built a prisoner of war camp in what is now the old state fairgrounds, and where all the baseball parks and all are. And we had hundreds of German soldiers out there, and they were used as labor in the cane fields. I remember as a young man seeing the cane trucks pass with the German soldiers in them going out to work in the morning. See, we needed the labor here because our boys were fighting over there.
And also serving in labor camps.
Yeah, labor camps over there. So.
Well, that's interesting. Now, a lot of the guards who came to guard the German camp actually married a lot of girls from Donaldsonville.
Right.
We have the little pizza crust here. I could top it with a lot of really nice things like the Roma tomatoes I could put right on top of it like this. The pesto would really, with the olive oil and pecans, would give a great flavor. And I'm using pecans instead of pine nuts because, of course, we have a lot of pecans in Louisiana, little black olives, green olives, anchovies, and any kind of cheese like this. And we could run this through the oven, get it nice and toasty and bubbly, and this would make one of the greatest little pizzas you've ever seen in your life. So the pesto really is a versatile little herb, a versatile little accompaniment to a lot of things in Italian cooking. Butch, I can't thank you enough for coming to visit with me today, sharing those great stories, bringing me my label.
Really
I appreciate it. And hey,
a treat for me.
I want to invite all of you back again to come and visit as we cook up more of these great Taste of Louisiana and maybe visit my home again. Who knows? See you later.
Funding for this program was provided in part by Bruce Foods Corporation, makers of Bruce's Yams and other distinctive Louisiana-style food products.
This is PBS.
The companion cookbook to A Taste of Louisiana is available for $22.95. The Evolution of Cajun and Creole Cuisine by Chef John Folse features recipes and food history behind Louisiana's cuisine. This 352-page cookbook contains over 250 recipes, including those from this show. To order, call 1-800-973-7246 or write to the address on your screen.